Right now, a law is being enforced that could fundamentally change how you create content with AI. And if you are making AI-generated videos of any kind, you cannot afford to ignore it. The EU AI Act is the world's first comprehensive artificial intelligence regulation, and its enforcement is not some far-off hypothetical. It is happening now, in phases, and the provisions that matter most to creators are already on the clock. So let us break down exactly what you need to know and what you need to do. First, some context. The EU AI Act was formally adopted in mid-2024 and entered into force in August of that year, but enforcement rolls out in stages. The first wave, which banned certain AI practices outright, became enforceable in February 2025. Transparency obligations, and this is the part that hits creators hardest, are enforceable starting August 2025. That is not next year. That is weeks away. And if you think this does not apply to you because you are not based in Europe, think again. The Act applies to anyone whose AI-generated content reaches EU citizens. If your videos are publicly available on YouTube, TikTok, or any global platform, you are within scope. Now let us talk about what the law actually requires. The EU AI Act sorts AI systems into 4 risk tiers: prohibited, high risk, limited risk, and minimal risk. Most AI video generation tools, things like Runway, Sora, Kling, Pika, and similar platforms, fall into the limited risk category. And limited risk comes with one massive obligation: transparency. Article 50 of the Act states that any content that is artificially generated or manipulated, including video, audio, and images, must be clearly disclosed as such. In plain language, if you are using AI to generate video content, you must label it. Your audience has the legal right to know they are watching synthetic media. So what does compliant labeling actually look like? The Act specifies that disclosures must be clear, distinguishable, and provided at the latest at the time of first interaction. That means you cannot bury a tiny disclaimer in your video description and call it a day. Best practice is to include a visible on-screen label, a verbal disclosure within the content itself, and metadata tagging where platforms support it. YouTube already offers a synthetic content label in its upload settings. If you are not using it, start now. That checkbox is not optional decoration. It is your first line of legal defense. Now here is where things get more serious. What happens if you do not comply? The EU AI Act carries fines of up to 35 million euros or 7% of global annual turnover for the most severe violations. Transparency violations fall under a slightly lower tier, but can still result in penalties of up to 15 million euros or 3% of turnover. For individual creators, those numbers might sound abstract, but enforcement agencies can and will pursue cases that set precedents. And platforms themselves are under pressure to police compliance, which means algorithmic demotion, content removal, or account restrictions could come even before a formal legal action does. Let us also address a common misconception. Some creators believe that if they use an AI tool but then manually edit or modify the output, the disclosure requirement disappears. It does not. The Act covers content that has been substantially modified by AI, not just content that is 100% machine-generated. If AI played a meaningful role in creating your visuals, your audio, or your narrative, the transparency obligation still applies. So what should you do right now? Step 1, audit your workflow. Identify every point where AI tools contribute to your content creation. Step 2, implement visible disclosures. Add on-screen labels and verbal acknowledgements in your videos. Step 3, use platform-native labeling tools. YouTube, TikTok, and Meta all have synthetic content disclosure features. Enable them. Step 4, document your process. Keep records of which tools you used and how content was generated. If a compliance question ever arises, documentation is your best protection. Step 5, stay updated. The EU AI Act's secondary legislation and technical standards are still being finalized. The rules will get more specific, not less. The reality is that AI-generated content is not going away. It is growing exponentially, and regulators around the world are watching the EU as a model. Similar frameworks are being discussed in Canada, Brazil, and parts of Asia. What you build into your workflow today will not just protect you from EU enforcement. It will future-proof your entire operation. The creators who adapt early will thrive. The ones who ignore this will eventually face consequences they could have easily avoided. The choice is yours, and the clock is ticking.